Good day, students. So we are now in week 16. This lesson is for grade 8 students. Subject is life science. So we are still on chapter 4, lesson 2. The lesson is all about the introduction to natural resources. For your reference, you can open your textbook on page 124 up to page 129. But before that, let's have first objective of the lesson. On the objective of the lesson, it's very important to understand what are the natural resources and why are natural resources important. So let's move on. What is natural resource? The environment is everything which surrounds us, and organisms and influences its life in many ways. It includes physical and biological component. The physical component of environment are soil, water, air, light, and temperature, which is considered as abiotic. The plants and animals are collectively referred to as biotic components. All these components work together, interact, and modify the effect of one another. The basic needs of life are fulfilled by mineral present in the nature, and these are referred to us as natural resource. What is renewable resources? A renewable resources is either always available or it is naturally replaced in relatively short time. Some renewable resources like wind and sunlight are almost always available. Other renewable resources like water and trees are renewable only if they are replaced as fast as they are used. Renewable resources, it is naturally energy which does not have unlimited supplies. And renewable energy can be used again and again, and it will never ever run out. What are the different renewable resources like the biomass, the hydroelectric, the geothermal, solar, and these are the energies which is considered as renewable energy. What is non-renewable resource? Over a million of years, natural processes change the remains of organisms into substances, coal, oil, and coal. Today's world, including the use of technologies, it is powered by these fuels. Humans use these resources much faster than they are naturally replaced. Resources that are not replaced in a useful time frame is considered as natural resources. The metals and minerals are also considered of it. Remember that all resources, such as the trees, may be renewable or non-renewable depending on how quickly they are replaced. So it means that renewable, cannot be replaced quickly by a natural process. Why are natural resources so important? Natural resources are available to sustain the very complex interaction between living things and non-living things. Humans also benefit immensely from this interaction. All over the world, people consume resources directly or indirectly. Development countries consume resources more than the underdeveloped countries. Human cannot live without some of the natural resources, such as the sunlight and fresh water. Humans depend on Earth's natural resources for survival and the development. And how people use the resources? Around the world, people rely on the natural resources for the same basic needs. Not all resources are equally available in all parts of the world. In some areas, there is a plentiful supply of clean fresh water. In other areas, water is scarce. In some places, pollution threatens the water supply. So it means globally, fuel are used for cooking, heating, and power. Different fuels are common in a different parts of the world. Coal is plentiful in some areas of the world and oil is plentiful in the other areas as well. So in ecological footprint, it is related to the sustainable use and of course the conservation. In sustainable use, it is a resource means using in a ways that they will able to maintain the resources at a certain quality for a certain period of time. For example, in a city may want to manage a river. Does the city want the water to be clean enough to drink or clean enough to swim in it? Does the city want the water to be clean for 50 years, 200 years, or definitely? The answer to those questions is to define what would be considered sustainable use for the river. However, it may not be sustainable from an ecological perspective, even if it meets human needs. And in other cities farther down the river may have different answers to those questions, but their plans could be considered sustainable if they met their goal. Because of these differences, policymakers and lawmakers struggle to define what is sustainable use. Let's move on to ecological footprint. The amount of land and water that is individual used to meet the resource needs and absorb the waste that they produce is considered as ecological footprint. A low level of resource use means a smaller footprint. A high level of resource use means a larger footprint. Conservation. While we cannot avoid using resources, there are better ways to use them, and that is what we call the conservation. It is a practice of managing the use of resources wisely so the resources last longer. Conservation cannot make resources last forever, but it can make resources last longer. The government and industries greatly affect resource conservation. Even individuals can make a difference. Walking, riding in a conserve fuel resources. People can also conserve resources when they turn off the light and unplug equipment that are not using. Taking shorter showers saves water. When many people make small changes, the results can be used. So that's all for this week. Don't remember to answer your Ecology and Pearson online. So that will be all. God bless you.